Hello, everyone. I think I got all the buttons touched. We're live on Facebook. I'm not very good sometimes about seeing some of those posts, but I definitely see things that you put on the Zoom call. And some of you know that I've moved, and so that's why I wasn't on last week. And I've got a new, little office and trying to get it set up. And the longest time was getting the internet switched from one house to the other, but I think I'm fully functioning here. So we're going to have fun today, or I think it's fun and fascinating. I'm going to be talking about ancient use of technology. And so I just want to give a shout out to Jennifer Eason Washington, and she has a podcast by that name, Jennifer Eason Washington, and she is the person that kind of sent me the first picture that, I've touched on some of these things, but what she sent me was fantastic. So I just want to share it with you and just have fun today with why frequencies and how frequencies have touched our world from the beginning. So I hope I've got everybody clued in here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm assuming everybody can hear me and see me. Let me know if you can't, but most people are saying yes, so we're set. There we go. Too many buttons to press here. Okay, so I have been saying for the longest time that I have the world's first sound therapy watch. There are some other tools out there that have sound and light and some different, ideas on them, more electrical frequencies from the electrical ideas, but mine was strictly acoustical. And what I wanted to share with you was just the fun information that I mentioned earlier from Jennifer Eason Washington. So we have about 850 different settings to correct imbalances in your body. And I've gone through this several times, but we have new people every time. So hopefully most of you are seeing the ease of use with the WAVwatch, that there's no cords or messy wires or patches. Sometimes I still have people trying to plug in and use earphones with the watch, but that's what I'm trying to avoid. You do not need to do that. You don't need to hear it. Every cell in your body absorbs frequencies and sound. So they say even babies in the womb, it's like they're getting a continual drum beat, a crescendo at times, because they are hearing through feeling the sounds in the womb, So don't worry about hooking up messy wires and putting patches on and all that kind of stuff. That's what the watch is trying to eliminate. We have no internet connectivity. There's no EMFs, and that is supremely important if you're paying attention to the negativity of EMFs in our culture today. I'm such a talker. I'll never forget about 30 years ago that I saw an episode on Star Trek, and of course they were chasing down some people, like a civilization, a culture who had captured the children from the ship. And it turned out that the reason their children were captured was to start a new civilization, that another planet had actually put towers all over their planet to communicate, and it made the people infertile where they could not reproduce. So that was in my mind, and here today, that's what we have. 30 years later, a scientific, show. How true is it? So again, no EMFs. There's also no monthly fee. It's great for hard of hearing people like me. It's all inclusive. Everybody can wear it. Babies can wear it with a little bit of help. Even pets can hear it and have some benefit from it. It's very cost effective self-care. There are no monthly fees, and hopefully it is one of the best priced tools on the market. So I also have over 60 hours of teaching on WAVwatch Frequency Fanatics on Facebook. Most of those have been transferred to Rumble and YouTube. There's quite a few videos also. So you can see about the WAVwatch in several different ways if you want to share any of those ideas with people. So voila, to jump into today, maybe the WAVwatch is not a new idea, because look at this picture. Look at this. Right here, you'll see an ancient culture, and these were the Sumerians, if I'm saying that correctly, Sumerians. And they have all kinds of pictures of some kind of a tool or something, or some people speculate jewelry, wearing on their wrist. So this just got me thinking about sharing with you some ideas on how ancient cultures have been using frequencies. So here's one idea. Now, this was a whole collage, and you can see that if you look very carefully, you'll see that every one of these pictures, they are wearing some kind of something on their wrist. Now, what is it? And all you have to do is look up Sumerians and wristwatches. And that's what I found. And many, many more pictures, but I captured the collage from Matrix Harmonics to be able to show you that. So you don't have to look very hard at all to see these wonderful sculptures. You can't miss this, that there is something on their wrist. Now, what is it? I don't know. Does anybody know? I doubt it, but it is fun to speculate. So here's one speculation that I could share with you. Whoops. So I'm hoping everybody saw that. Could everybody hear that also? Once in a while, I have trouble with that. So let me know if you weren't.
No, I didn't have any sound, Linda.
You didn't have any sound. I wonder, did anybody have any sound?
I didn't either.
Okay, let me go back because it's worth doing that. So I may have missed a button here. See, I think I did. All right, we'll try that again.
Oh, this is a question. Why does he have a watch on? Isn't that a watch?
How dare you? Impossible. Stop.
What is that?
It's jewelry.
It looks like a watch. I mean,
It
maybe
does.
it's jewelry, but it...
Boy, I'm having trouble
on
today.
his wrist, and it's a circle, and it's with a band.
Right.
I mean, what is that?
Mini Antikythera mechanism.
It looks like my
iPod Mini.
watch.
It does.
It does.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But, of course, the explanation is like, of course not. Just jewelry. But it does look like it, doesn't it?
Well, it just makes sense that if they developed weapons, and they developed clothing, and they developed shelters, if they had the sophistication to be able to construct these buildings, why wouldn't they be able to construct a watch?
Right.
An automatic watch. Oh, this is a question. Why does he have a watch on?
Now, could anybody hear? Were you able to hear that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what's going on here. Too many buttons to press, I guess. Okay. So if you were able to hear that or even just see it, there is no reason at all why a culture that could develop those build those buildings and have all the technology that they had, why they couldn't have built watches or something along those lines. That this was another opinion on Facebook and through Matrix Harmonics, it was posted. And basically, the person said, I thought I would put my opinion into this mix as wearing watches in ancient cultures is very stunning, you know. So this person is saying that he thinks that they could have used them to travel between non-physical dimensions. They could have been used to monitor and change energy frequencies, and they could receive information via telepathic intuitive means. But there's no way to prove how they were used. They could also see that they did wear them on different arms. So this person was surmising that there were different energies that they were accessing, and maybe even that they were connected to a home frequency. So I know that gets kind of wild, but I just thought it was very interesting. I'm not sure. I can't see everybody again. I'm pressing too many buttons here. But I just thought that was wonderful to be able to see a different idea on the watches. Now, I have one more video and it's 15 minutes long, so I'm not going to show it to you all, but just show you, especially the title. And it's another person, extrapolating and telling us why he thinks that these could have actually been watches or something along that line. And I'm still pressing some buttons trying to get to be able to see you again here. Let me try that one more time. There we go. There we go. All right. So here's the next idea. And again, this is 15 minutes long. So it's a little long. We're not going to show it all, but just look at the title on that. Ancient temple shows cell phone and wristwatch built with psychic powers. I don't know. I'm just showing you what's on the internet and the interesting part about it.
Hey guys, today we're going to see an ancient Hindu temple which is truly unforgettable. Even if you try to forget it, it will be impossible for you to erase the visuals I'm going to show you. The temple you are about to see is very ancient. It was built around 250 AD, which means the temple is at least 1,750 years old. But the details in this temple are mind-boggling and will make you question if the temple was built by supernatural means. This temple is located in a small village called Singrikudi, and at first sight, it looks almost like a modern-day temple with beautiful and colorfully painted statues. What is so special about these carvings and statues? Look at this statue. It has a shirt with a collar, and look, there are even buttons, and you can even see the pockets on both sides. He's posing as though he's holding up the weight of the temple. Now, Hinduism is all about symmetry, so my eyes are naturally going on the other side of the tower. And look, again, the statue on the other side is also shown with a dress shirt with collar, pockets, and buttons. This is shocking because all historians agree that buttoned shirts came to India only in the last few centuries. But this temple is at least 1,750 years old. Yes, the painting on it is fresh because they do repaint the temple time and time again. And some even claim that these shirts were done by a quirky painter in recent times. However, many locals claim that these shirts were originally carved on these ancient statues, and the painters merely paint various colors on them. Now, remember I spoke about symmetry. Let's go to the other side of the tower and see what kind of statues exist there. This side is also beautifully carved with so many stories from Hinduism. And again, we see more figures with dress shirts with buttons, collars, and pockets. The faces are a little bit different from the faces on the front side of the tower, but now we have a total of 4 statues wearing dress shirts, right? We're not done yet because temple towers actually have 4 sides. So I decided to see what's on the sides as well. Most people do not see the sides of the towers at all, and I was able to see more statues with shirts. If we go around the tower flying like birds, then we can see 4 more statues on the sides of the towers as well. This is remarkable because we have a total of 8 statues wearing dress shirts in this tower. We know, as a matter of fact, that buttoned shirts with collars did not exist 1,750 years ago. I don't mean that just within India. The whole world did not use shirts like this until the last few centuries. So how could ancient builders carve such accurate statues with dress shirts? But we are not done yet. There are more interesting details. When I zoomed in with my camera and took close-ups on the sides, there are more details which are stunning. Look at this figure. He has a round pocket watch which goes from his button to his pocket. This is typically how we used watches before the wristwatch became fashionable. But there's something even more shocking. On his lower pocket, there is a large rectangular object peeping out. It looks remarkably similar to a modern-day smartphone. Is that a cell phone we are looking at? How are such carvings possible in an ancient Hindu temple? Locals give a totally different answer with a completely different angle to this. These statues and carvings were done in ancient times, but they were done with the help of psychic powers. The builder who created them was deeply spiritual, and he could visualize how the future generation would look using his psychic abilities. Is it possible that ancient sculptors could use their psychic powers to visualize how their future generations would look thousands of years later? Locals say yes and point to yet another interesting tower in the temple. This is a smaller tower which is built on the sanctum of a female goddess. Immediately, you can notice something very interesting. This tower is ladies only. No male gods or humans are shown. All these statues are females. This is a spectacular carving of a mom saving a baby from falling off the tower. Hinduism is a very liberal religion. In fact, Hinduism has more female goddesses than male gods. But there is something much more fascinating in this tower. Here we can see two women wearing modern day swimsuit. Look at these statues. This is extraordinary. Here are two women shown wearing typical Western bathing suit from the last century. How do we explain these statues? I have shown you so many different carvings and temples on my channel, even temples which claim time travel. But this temple was done by some kind of psychedelic means. The carvings I find are just really bizarre. Look, here is a carving which shows conjoined twins. They have two heads but share the same body. Look at their face. They both have protruding teeth coming out of their lips. Count the number of hands. There are a total of 7 hands. Where is the symmetry here? Conjoined twins often have these abnormal asymmetric features. And look at the number of legs. There are a total of 3 legs. We should normally see something like this in a medical museum, but we see this in this ancient temple. Why?
So I didn't know where to stop this at all, because it does go on and on. And, you know, you can get really deep into some of these videos and people are trying to figure out, but he had some interesting theories. And I thought that was really interesting. Again, another look at tools on your wrist that ancient cultures could have worn, or maybe they were just surmising what would be worn in the future. So I guess that's a whole theme of what I was talking about today. I'm saying this is the world's first sound therapy watch, but there were other tools that might have been used for thousands of years that we don't really even know about. I did have one more slide on the summer civilization. They were saying, and this comes from Discover magazine, was saying that you can find traces in today's society of their inventions in agriculture, language, math, religion, and astronomy. So they were in the Mesopotamia area, and they are saying 6,000 years ago on the floodplains between the Euphrates rivers and the Tigris River between Iraq and Syria. So that was the first one that I kind of introduced to you that had all of the images of large round watches. So I am still fascinated by that. And obviously I don't know anything. I'm just showing you a couple of slides. It would be neat to be a historian and really try to put some more ideas together. But just wanted to share with you some fun things. Now, another idea is that cultures were into the frequency of the earth. And I knew this. I know that was the frequency of the earth. And I actually named my business 432 Energetics. And this is how it was measured. I wasn't quite sure, but I was able to find this for you. So the distance from the center of the earth, I don't know if this makes sense or not, but it's the average height of the atmosphere. This value is given as 430 or 432 arc minutes, which harmonically reduces down to the 432 vibration. So, quote unquote, many cultures were able to measure this, and they were all saying for thousands of years that 432 was the vibration of the earth. They knew about vibrations and frequencies and measured them. So ancient instruments have been tuned to 432 hertz. And some of you will know that just recently in our time, in the Nazi time, I'm not sure if I know the exact time, I've read it before, but this was changed to 444, our tuning of instruments. But for thousands of years, all of our instruments were at the 432 hertz frequency. And this started, or could have started, we don't know, we're still discovering. So we had a Greek philosopher who at least worked from 570 to 495 BC. And he had an instrument called a monochord. And I know you can read this as good as I can. I don't have it memorized, but his instrument was tuned to 432. And quote unquote, it helped with harmonic ratios and theories of the vibrations of the universe. Wow. I don't know if you're like me, but I think that's pretty fascinating. So surely they've done a lot with frequencies that we are really not understanding. So the harps, the lyres, the flutes, and many pyramids were tuned to the Earth's frequency. 432 again. Some of the oldest Tibetan singing bowls were tested and resonated at 432. So we're talking about the discovery or the knowledge that cultures around the world, it just wasn't one culture, it was different times and different cultures were tuning to 432. And using it for different ideas. Now, this is one I thought was fascinating. And this is an ancient civilization in Malta. They had underground temples around 3,500 years ago. And every room in this temple resonates to 111 hertz, 111 hertz. Now, they say at this point in time that the 111 hertz, 111 hertz, is considered the holy frequency. Don't know. Very interesting. So a whole series of phenomenal temples and underground catacombs all resonate at that same hertz. Again, around 3,500 years ago. I think this is another great idea. And, maybe some point in time we can have a archaeologist tell us about this a little bit more, but the internet is full of information on it. So an acoustician, John Stuart Reid, has said that the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid of Giza was designed to reverberate to increase the sound energy from chants. And another person, an Egyptian archaeologist, and I cannot say his name. I do understand that he's passed away, but he did a lot of work for toning and frequencies. And he says that every chamber has a specific harmonic replicating the harmonies of the cavities of the body. So most of you know by now, just from looking at the WAVwatch, that every organ has a different frequency. It resonates differently. So our whole body resonates at different frequencies, especially different organ systems that they were able to measure. And then we have the average for the body as a whole. And then another one, another pyramid, the bent pyramid, has two different chambers that produce two different sounds that are amplified to create huge fields of resonance to restore the balance of the body. So did they have people walk through these chambers? Did they stand outside it? Did they have a tool that picked up on the resonance? I don't know that that is speculated anywhere. They just knew that, or they just know, they've discovered, they've researched, and they've measured that all of these chambers have different resonances and that they were built to be amplified in different manners. So that goes on and on. If you want to look up more about that, they will let you know which frequency they have been able to measure a certain chamber resonating at. And this is all over the world. This could have been a 3 or 4 hour information series, but I just wanted to kind of touch on some basis of it. So that's one idea, that we see that toning and different sounds, different resonant frequencies were used, hopefully, to restore the balance of the body. Again, they don't understand how or why it was done, but it was something that they have measured. Now, let's change gears just a little bit. They also think that sound has been used in almost every culture to move huge stones. So you can find this on the internet also. And then you can also find, somebody that's refuting that and saying, no, that's not correct, that kind of thing. But according to 432 Cosmic Key, every culture where megaliths exist, they talked about the chanted spells of musicians or magicians by songs, by striking a rod to produce a resonance, or by the music, by the trumpets, the gongs, the cymbals, and the whistles. So they know that today we don't really even have tools that could have moved some of these stones, yet ancient cultures were able to move them somehow. So this is a huge one also. So these are some examples of some of the tools and ancient cultures that, how could they move some of these stones all over the world? And then they keep measuring and they're trying to figure out where these cultures were located around the earth. And it just gets deeper and deeper and more fascinating. So the list is endless. And I don't think in this particular presentation that I put in that there's a place in Florida, and some of you people that are from Florida will have to help me remember the name of it. But there is someone there in the 1920s. It's now basically a museum or a tourist site that you can go see a gentleman who moved huge stones in that early time period, and basically gave credit and said he figured out the key, that the Egyptians were using to move stones. And of course, that has been refuted, but it is a site that you can go and see because it was one man moving tons and tons of stones without any equipment. And somebody will remind me of what that was when we go live and let you talk back and forth. Now, here's another one. They also believe that the Egyptians had a device that they could tune with a specific frequency, and they were able to cut massive stones. So here's one example. And of course, this has been refuted. There's like, no, it was not frequencies, but we don't know what it was, So just because we haven't figured out how to use it today doesn't mean that ancient cultures didn't, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, But this is from the universe inside you and sound, vibration, and frequencies. So basically, this looks pretty interesting to me. It does look like it was cut like butter, doesn't it? Now, it also goes on, because I know I've shown you this one before, but somebody might not have seen that. So now we're able to say, wow, they actually built churches in the medieval times that had a resonance.
Here's a secret that's been kept by cathedrals for a long time. This right here is your DNA. This at the top is your DNA from a top-down view. These geometric shapes that you see is what we call sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is an ancient study that explains energy patterns. Like this turtle right here. If you look to the right, what you see here is a sand plate that's connected to some type of instrument that can send out frequency. Now let's just say the instrument is a piano, and when I hit one of the notes on the piano, it shifts the sand into these specific geometric shapes. This is called cymatics, the study of visible sound. You can also do this with liquids. Now here's a picture of cymatics in water, top-down view of DNA, and church windows. Notice they are almost identical. Now, how many times have you drove past a church window like this and wondered how the fuck did they come up with that design? They didn't. It's in your DNA. Now, here's something very interesting. Everything has a resonant frequency, which basically means everything has its own frequency. Now, a lady did an experiment where she set up a mic in the church like this and recorded the silence. She then set up speakers to play that silence so that it would go back into the mic and keep creating a louder and louder and louder sound, to the point to where it was strong enough to show up cymatically. Now, when she played that sound through water, it created these shapes cymatically. And to her surprise, the same shape the sound of the church was making was what the shapes of the windows inside the church looked like. There's only one group of people I know who can build at that level. But anyway, now remember, buildings have their own resonant frequency, which means that when you're in the building, your body is being interacted with those frequencies. So if your body is made of 60 to 80% water, and this is what water looks like when it's vibrating, that means whatever shape is made by the sound of the church is the shape that your DNA is taking form of. I believe these cathedrals are designed to create healing frequencies to make you feel good when you're inside of the church. This could be part of the reason why people feel good when they enter a church, not realizing the church is emitting its own healing frequency in alignment with the instruments that are being played by uplifting music scales.
Isn't that a fascinating one? So we don't really know about the use of churches per se, because it has changed a lot, and our recordings of history have also changed if you keep reading deeper and deeper into that. So could people have used it for some kind of a, energy healing center as much as for prayer? Or at the same time, how were these used in reality? It's hard to think that, peasants were basically, living around it, but somehow they could build this type of a building. So mysteries abound with all the information about frequencies and healing. So when you go into a church in Europe, usually, take that extra time to absorb that energy. Now, this goes into the WAVwatch, basically. I had a lady just the other day text me and say, I don't think my watch is working. I can't hear the sound on some of them. And I was able to text her back, because this is a question. I have tried to address it in my booklet, that the emotional frequencies are very, very hard to hear. Even when you have it up as loud as you can go, I can't hear it, and it depends on your hearing ability. But this is what he was saying in the church. You might not be able to realize that the church is putting off a frequency. She had to keep working with it to actually get it to the range where we could hear that frequency. And so it's the same thing with the WAVwatch. We do have a frequency on here, but I have made it so that you don't have to hear the frequency. Your body is going to feel the frequency. So again, one cell will start to vibrate, another cell vibrates another, and then it just zips through your body without you being overwhelmed with hearing a loud noise. And to me, that's similar to what, this young man is saying, that there is a very slight resonant frequency that we just don't realize is there. And our body picks up on it, and there could be some changes in our body. Now, this one is another long video that I won't play the whole idea on, but I just wanted you to know that this is available too. And it's really amazing, the sacred secrets of sound. And I've played a little bit of this before, but this fits in again with how we do not realize that ancient cultures have just really used sound to for many, many effects. Not just for instruments. I was kind of slow there thinking that through. Yes, they had instruments, they were tuned, but they did many other things with them.
In the beginning was the Word. And God said, "Let there be light."
Most in the West are familiar with the Christian concept, in the beginning was the Word. God spoke the Word and the world into existence. What most don't realize is that, for example, in ancient Egypt, they taught the same thing. There was Ptah, the god of technology, who went into his heart and felt the world and then spoke it into existence.
Almost universally, ancient texts and traditions have always placed sound at the core of not only our existence, but the existence of the entire universe. And it begins with the powerful seed syllable, the ancient Om, which originally was never spoken, but it was felt in the body. And this is where the relationship between sound and vibration becomes very important, because ultimately sound is only a vibration brought into an audible range.
In the Hindu tradition, the word was with Brahman, and the word was Brahman. The very first Hebrew letter, Aleph, which starts the whole process, is also like an out-breath. It's like, you know, it's a sound. The sound is like the expression of the thought from that universal mind, or that divine source. The thoughts being expressed out through the sound, which then manifests material universe, material world.
When we come over into the Americas, the Pueblo Indians talk about the spider, how she sang the world into existence.
In Aztec mythology, the god Quetzalcoatl used a conch shell to create the vibration that formed the first wave of life. The Inuit say, the raven made the world and the waters with the beat of his wings.
So it seems that no matter where we go or what time period, there's a belief that sound was fundamental to creation.
And equally remarkable, our own genesis as human beings may well have started in a similar way.
When that embryo becomes less than a millimeter in size, right, very close to a millimeter, but not quite a millimeter, the embryo already starts to develop the first aspects of the inner ear. So the very first sense organ that is developed within the embryo is the inner ear.
But then at 16 to 24 weeks, the neurodevelopment has taken place to a point where all my 5 senses come online, except my eyes are closed and I'm in the dark, and my nose and mouth are filled with fluids, so those aren't active. But sound travels through water 5 times better than through air. So my total experience when I'm in the womb is hearing and vibration sense.
That sound coming in to the fetus, to the embryo, is essential for the development of the fetus. The mother's voice, as well as voices and sounds from the environment outside, the language that is spoken by the mother, by the father, those things are being heard by that developing fetus. And as they're coming in through its own ears, it's wiring its nervous system. There are 3 times as many connections from the ears to the brain as there are from the eyes to the brain. So the sounds coming in through the ears feed the neurological system. The auditory nerve directly connects to every organ in the body.
It's like we're baptized
So
in sound and
that one
vibration.
goes on a little bit too, but just wanted to share that with you. And I have the, that is the GAIA site and more information there. It's very important to, that we see all of these ideas, how important
water.
sound is. Like,
And
see if I can get out of that.
We all have our own mini evolution that takes place.
Real, come on, there we go. Now, I have more to share with you, so I hope you don't get too bored here, but I have just loved looking up some of these ideas, and I've shared a couple with you before on these, but don't forget how important sound is, and that ancient cultures discovered all this. They knew this. I mean, the clothing that they wore is fundamentally a reproduction of sound frequencies. They had it reproduced in tiles and, mosaics and, blankets, everything. Their buildings, the churches, everything was a grouping of sound. Now, we're also seeing a really small experiment, but 8 crazy experiments with sound you can go to on YouTube again, and it shows you that sound can levitate. So here we go. I'm going to show you this right quick. So nowadays you can get your own tone generator and make a sound, make your own tone. So this goes on to show you sand or salt. And it goes on and on. Not quite as much about levitation, but you can see the different acoustical hertz measurements and the different changes in the pattern of the sand or the salt, or they even say the earth, that the earth could have been made from vibrations changing. Let me see if I can get to the next slide. Okay. So now we have information about sound being able to propel things. I mean, you just have to see this. And the last one I just had to share with you is resonant sounds and fire. And they are finally seeing this. They are finally doing some of the first work on trying to put fires out with sound. So like I mentioned, they are just starting to put that together. Now, one last idea about sound. Doesn't this look like an ancient rug or something that you could buy at a store? And when you read my information, what this is a measurement of heart cells. And they have been manipulated with just different frequencies. And then they took a picture of each one of those. So each of those is a different image of a cell in the heart with a specific frequency added to the body. So then they were saying from this discovery, this is from Stanford, that this simple change in frequency puts the cells in motion, guides them to a new position, and holds them in place. Just look at that. So are we really discovering anything new? Because to me, these are representations of what I have seen in ancient cultures in many, many places. So I hope you like that little idea that I was trying to share with you today. Ancient cultures knew a lot that we didn't know about sound frequencies. And again, what kicked it all off was just the idea that I had not seen the watches on the ancient Sumerians or the jewelry or whatever it might be. But definitely there are so many ideas that we are just starting to explore. So kind of time to close this down just a little bit here, but I see, I think we have enough information. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and add a comment or two, it was just kind of a fun little idea about sounds from ancient history. So please feel free to add.
I was wondering if anybody had ever heard of Michael Terrell and his sound. It's called whole tones.
Oh, okay.
And I became interested in him several years ago and actually bought the videos. They're CDs, and each one has a certain frequency, and they're just beautiful music that you can listen to heal with. And also, the book is so fascinating. I'm going to read it again. But I just brought these out because of your wonderful presentation today. It was just great. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. And I had so much fun doing it. It's so fun to learn. You know, you want to be a lifelong learner. And I think you all are. That's why we get together. So I didn't recognize the name, but when you showed the book, yes, whole tones. And very interesting. Any other ideas? Thanks for sharing that and reminding us all about that. I guess I don't have my necklace on today, but you know, I wear different necklaces because they have different frequencies. The stones have frequencies. They've measured a stone. One of my favorites is turquoise. And that's a frequency that evidently makes you more creative. And I noticed that about 15 years ago, I was trying to write a book for my other business, which is called BRAS, Breast Research Awareness and Support. And I was just sitting at the computer and, you know, just couldn't get anything done. I was just, you know, brain dead. And for some reason, I got up and I put on my turquoise necklace and I could just sit there all day long and type. And I got my 15 chapters done really quickly. And then I would, you know, I'd mess around and I'd take my necklace off and I wouldn't get anything done. I'd put my necklace back on And I was very, I got a lot done. So when I actually looked up, the creativity was one of the major features with turquoise. So again, that's why people have used stones for years. Maybe they had a particular stone that they were using for some, idea. I do not know, but it would, even if it was a stone or jewelry, it would have had a frequency. So lots to interpret, lots to look at, and lots to learn. All right. Any other ideas? And let's see, William. William has a question, and I'm just going to have you give me a call later, or excuse me, it would be better if you would just go to info@wavwatch.com and type your question. And somebody did remind me, it's Coral Castle in Homestead, Florida. Is that what I was reading? That is the castle that was resonates, and the gentleman was able to move, tons and tons and tons of stone all by himself, just like the pyramids. It was very, very fascinating. But of course, people have negated that. And that's why you ought to go there yourself and see it. I haven't got to see it yet. I've just read about it several times. And then someone else was saying there's a Bosnian pyramid of the sun, and it resonates at 110 hertz, and they call that the healing chamber. So you can just keep doing research and find out there is so much around the world that we don't know. See. All right. So I think we're about to the closing, unless anybody else has any comments or anything that they want to share about unusual ideas and sound frequencies. Again, we think we have something that's a little bit updated for our world today, but maybe not. Maybe it wasn't the first. No worry. We just have fun with it and learn and hopefully use it. So thank you for coming on today. Don't want to waste any more of your time. Hope to see you back next week. I've gotten moved. You can tell some of my pictures in the background are still not up, that kind of thing, but I am moved. So, and I'm sure that you had a great program last week with Libby. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.